Alrighty everyone, welcome back. We are now in the last couple of days of July of 2024, and ever since the Acolyte Episode 8 dropped on Disney+, also known as the Acolyte Finale, failed to reverse the backlash, failed to reverse any kind of damage that was done to the prior 7 episodes, and we all saw what happened with the Nielsen ratings when it comes to the viewership/engagement levels of the Acolyte. It has been a colossal failure. It didn't even reach the top 10 list on the Nielsen ratings. That's how bad the Acolyte viewership truly is at this point by Lucasfilm/Disney. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about the Acolyte in total is that we know that this was consistently bad. Now, in my opinion, when you look at all the episodes bundled together, it is nothing but a mess. Nothing actually happens in substance. Nothing truly actually follows George Lucas's philosophy. If anything, it destroys it. And this is the very thing that Kathleen Kennedy, Leslye Headland, and especially Amandla Stenberg truly will always deny and refuse to accept defeat or actually accept any kind of criticism by the fans, by, of course, the general public that are the ones that even gave this show a shot. Now, focusing on Amandla Stenberg, this is where things begin to get a little crazy in the midst of the whole firing situation that happened behind the scenes between herself, the Disney executives, and the many Lucasfilm projects. Let's get into this. Now, specifically, of course, what's interesting about this is that we know that Lucasfilm and the Walt Disney Company is in a constant shakeup right now. It's not looking good at all. There's a lot of problems between Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy for various reasons that we will continue to actually go over in the next couple of days. However, with the Acolyte Episode 8 a complete failure for Lucasfilm, and those like Kathleen Kennedy and Leslye Headland, one major development going on now has more to do with Amandla Stenberg in the wake of her getting fired from several Lucasfilm projects under Disney for multiple factors. Now, Stenberg delivered the following. I think it's very important in this day and age that we address misogyny and sexism as two major problems that need to be dealt with, and I think the Acolyte was a great way Leslye delivered that message into the Acolyte to really make this problematic topic more known. The main criticism that I have noticed from the so-called fans are all connected to their issues with Osha and May, and it couldn't be more clear that we still have an ongoing issue with fans over the color of certain characters' skin. It's just disgusting behavior that needs to stop. And look, I have said this many times, many times, I have no comment on Season 2 or any other thing I'm working on. I refuse to really get into that right now. But what I will address are the fans that hand the studios the wrong criticism, and they more often than not seemingly mistaken that as real criticism. It's not good for actresses like myself that miss opportunities because of that, and it's most certainly not good for anyone else that worked on the Acolyte. I had a good convo with Leslye the other day, and she stands by the Acolyte and her vision and her creativity and holds no regrets over the loud minority of fans that obviously have no clue what Star Wars is about. In the final episode, it was our mission to top the iconic lightsaber duel between Anakin and Kenobi, and you get to see that between the Stranger and Soul, and it just knocks the fight that we saw in George's film out of the water. Fans need to chill the heck out and keep the inflammatory opinions to themselves, because it helps nobody in the end. What Leslye and I provided in this series, I think, properly addresses the growing issues with sexism. Guys, let me just stop here before I move on about what Amandla Stenberg is just spewing again. All of this nonsense that really holds no logic. Number one, the fact that she's comparing the fight between Chimere, you can also call him the Stranger, I really don't care, to be honest, but between him and Soul, that fight did not even come close. Not even a shred of what we saw in Revenge of the Sith between Anakin and Obi-Wan. I don't care what anyone says out there, that's just my opinion, and anyone else out there can have theirs. But I'm sure a lot of you will agree with me that it landed nowhere near close to what we saw in Revenge of the Sith. So they failed on that front. Number two, she's trying to make this whole series out of misogyny and sexism getting addressed, and this alludes to what Leslye Headland talked about just the other day, and Amandla Stenberg is seemingly parroting that, about how Soul was one that engaged in sexism in the Acolyte, basically why he was, telling Osha and May to do what they needed to do, and how he was controlling them in a certain way and saying certain things. And you guys go ahead and check it out on Twitter. I talked about this on Twitter. Leslye Headland talks about it. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is exactly why Leslye said that Soul was destroyed by OSHA because of benign sexism. I'm not kidding you guys. That's what Leslye Headland said. But moving onwards, she goes on to continue. You see this issue with Soul, and here she goes. You see this issue with Soul and how he treats OSHA and May, and in the end, you see where that goes for his character. It's symbolism, and fans need to get a grip already. I think the reactions over the Acolyte are the epitome of the problems in this world that we are dealing with today, and this is something that Kathleen Kennedy had warned me about right when I signed on for this role. For these characters that were dedicated for me, which by the way was an honor, but when you examine the response from these fans, it's just toxic in nature, and you begin to learn much of that comes from men, specifically men that have issues with women obtaining lead roles in both film and television, and I think that's the demographic that we need to learn to ignore from that point forward. For whatever creator takes on the next project or does something like what Leslye did, I think they need to know that, and that's why I needed to address this issue. It is very important to know that this is just how the Star Wars community is. So she says that this is exactly how the Star Wars community is, that it's all about sexism, it's all about misogyny, it's just it's nonsense. This is what they always like to go back to when they realize that they created a failed product. Look, taking all of the DEI out of the equation of the Acolyte, it's still a very bad show. In fact, it is a very, very terrible show that breaks canon. It shifts away from George's vision. It even pretty much undoes a lot of things in The Revenge of the Sith. But what's interesting about that is how she also points out that this is just how fans are, that this is just how the Star Wars community is and always has been. And that's where I think that she's out of touch with reality. It's fans just raising criticism because they are passionate about Star Wars and what it once was. Look, it's like you would never even believe that you would live in a day 10, 15 years ago this is where Star Wars would be to where it is today, right? You would never imagine that. I don't think you guys would imagine that. So when Disney bought it out, when Disney bought Lucasfilm back in 2012, I've said this story many times, I had an instant bad feeling. Alright, like Han Solo, I got a bad feeling about this. That's exactly how I felt. But I gave it the benefit of the doubt. I gave the chance with The Force Awakens. I said, alright, maybe they have to kind of just kickstart things with the first film by making similarities to A New Hope. Then The Last Jedi dropped. Then the message was becoming more and more clear that they just don't care about Star Wars. So with The Acolyte, it is peak level cringe. It is peak a full right as to why fans have criticism and why fans are now completely walking away and not giving Star Wars a chance anymore. And this is exactly why. It's the things that Amandla says, of what Leslye Headland says, like she said the other day about benign sexism. But overall, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.